Shout out to Ron Wills for this particular topic that I decided to work on. So, what I mean by this is that I checked out one of his videos, and I'll put the link to that video that he made in the description section. What it was about was women turn down handsome men for this one reason, and it was centered around basically him being a pretty boy. For a guy that looks a little too well kept together, that could be suspect. Now, I'll interject and say that there's a fine line. A guy should look handsome, but just don't be overly over the top with it. Like there just has to be this fine line of where, yeah, we see that, you know, you cut pretty clean, right? But it's just not too fine in detail, right? Like you took a lot of time to get yourself together. But especially for the guy that just has the genetics to just be naturally handsome without too many enhancements, this is very important because you probably don't need to wear the flyest thing to still stand out. You just need a haircut, wear a t-shirt, some jeans, maybe some sweatpants. Ladies, get your head out the hole. I didn't say anything about gray sweatpants or anything the color gray, so let's not go there. But I'm just saying, this a guy with a certain handsomeness to him, uh, very naturally, if you will. He doesn't have to do much. He doesn't have to dress up in the finest clothes. So I'd say, guys, that I guess the most handsome guys you can think about don't have to do much. How did this all get started? Well, you look at the liberal side of it. I'm gonna leave it at that because there's certain other words I want to use, but I gotta be a little bit thoughtful about those words. So we're gonna say liberal for now. Okay. So there was a time back in the day when this idea of a man was frowned upon. This idea of a masculine man and him being patriarchal. Yeah, masculine man and him being patriarchal was frowned upon, and depending on the ethnicity, you either had these type of men removed from the house, falsely imprisoned, set up, murdered, left homeless, okay, looked over as far as receiving the heir, the generational wealth. He was left poor by his own family because he would have been too much of a man and probably overthrow a lot of these families that were already out there. So you had all this going on back in the day when a lot of the liberalism started to take place. Okay. And it left this idea of a real man out. And then what we account to today as a real woman is now the face of the new man, if you will, meaning that she's become more masculine to the point now that she doesn't want a man that's more masculine than her. So, real men that are actually naturally handsome, there's two reasons why they actually reject this type of man. So, one reason Ron Wills brought up. Shout out to Ron Wills once again. He talked about how that can be suspect. But my reason, which can add to a second reason as to why they reject handsome men, is because they represent something that she could never be in a lot of different ways, not just on the genetic side of things, but more or less just someone that is natural in his own way, in ways that she'll never be as a woman, if you will. Uh, he's just everything better and all that. He's competition to her. That's the other sad part, right? It shouldn't be that way. And in essence, she's too ugly for him. I'm gonna just keep it a buck. She's just too ugly for him. She's just too unattractive for him. And she knows it. But let's say this guy still deals with her for whatever his reason is. Well, she's going to do all she can to tear him down, to make him think less of himself, to make him not see his true worth, make him not even see how truly handsome he is, right? So I say all that to say, most guys that still have a lot of masculinity intact, naturally handsome, they're not putting up with that. A lot of these gals actually prefer to be with a guy that's less attractive than she is. Even if she calls herself moving on from the more attractive guy, She actually is moving on to be with a guy that's less attractive so she can regain some power or foothold or whatever you want to call it. And she'll try to look back at the more handsome guy that even gave her a chance to try to still gaslight him even more to make it seem like I did find someone better. She'll even air up her exes that she had to be like, well, I had some exes that were kind of like you in some ways, they built like that and, they had your, whatever. She'll try to air these guys up. These guys, mind you, are not in her life at this time. She probably went back to an ex, went back, she didn't go forward. Get it? So anybody that goes back to an ex is not going forward. Keep that in mind too. So, but that in essence is like with this pretty boy thing, byproduct of the liberal era. These gals, they will be with a guy that's less attractive, but let's say if he's more attractive, well, he can't be masculine. He has to be a little bit more feminine. And so there are a lot of more guys coming up that are pretty boy, even if they're naturally born with certain handsome masculine attributes, they're coming off more feminine. So that's why some guys that still have their more masculine attributes, they don't show that off. Like, let's just keep it a buck. Like, you think of Jason Tatum, a lot of gals like him. He's lighter skinned. His hair is not coarse. He has a certain beard already. He has everything. He doesn't really need to do much to enhance himself based on like what gals would prefer. And this can be a colorism conversation. We're not going to go there. But Jason Tatum, he just seems pretty, regular, like as far as his mentality. He just cuts his hair and he keeps it moving. And that's very manly if you ask me, you know. Um, so there's so much I want to pack into this conversation. But yeah, all I will say is that, a certain guy that looks a certain way, you're not doing too much to add to the way you already look. You're not doing too much at all. Oh yeah, that's what I want to say because Ron Wills also brought up how gals look at a man being handsome different in the way a man might see himself as being handsome. But see, that's the thing. That's for the gals that are more feminine. The gals that are more feminine, when they look at a man that's handsome, they don't see it like as far as him looking cute, as far as him being a pretty boy. A real woman versus a typical female sees a man's handsomeness differently. Now, a real woman might look at his natural genetic features. That's one thing, but it's not just from the standpoint that, oh, he's cute. She's looking at he's built, he's strong, he has wisdom, he's intelligent. You know what I'm saying? Like she's thinking like that. Whereas the typical female, she's really looking at how cute he is, how his hair looks, the type of color eyes he has. She's focused on certain body parts of his. Like she's not really looking at the core of him as a man. See, a real woman can look at the core of him and see how that supports his exterior. It's defined by his interior, like because she felt his energy. So there's a certain way a man can walk and talk to give off this real energy about himself towards a gal. Like, look, I'm more than what you see. Even if you think I'm cute, I'm more than what you see. I promise you. You know what I'm saying? And so is the way you carry yourself, whether you light skin or dark skin, black or white, red, yellow, don't matter. It's the core that keeps you going. They always talking about your frame. No, man, it's about your core. The frame is just around the core. You know what I'm saying? Now, with that said, just know that nowadays, what we think is pretty boy is becoming pretty girl, and that's no shot at the rainbow community, but I'm saying in regards to heterosexual relations, uh, pretty boy is just becoming softer. Even if you look a certain way, you gotta, come off even more rugged. But it's not in the sense that you're trying to have this bad boy archetype. You just want them to know that there's more to it than, your looks. Like, you're not nothing to be played with, literally. Like, I'm not just your boy toy. That's not what this is about. So, but a lot of the liberalism has basically created this. They created the bad boy, and they also created the pretty boy. Keep that in mind. And thanks a million.